Hey, everybody, welcome to Love and Relo, the voice of the relocation industry. I am your host, Ben Cross, and I'm so blessed and honored to be here with a friend of mine, Stephen John, Senior Advisor at Global Mobility Advisor. Stephen, how are you doing?
And I am doing fabulous. Thank you very much. It is so great to see you. It's been a long time, my friend.
It's been too long. Yeah, for real. This is about the time of year when I start getting like I start missing people, right? It's been a while
Exactly.
since WERC. I'm like, all right, because you come off all those conferences in October, and you're like, all right, enough. I don't need to see people for a while. And now I'm like in that mode where, hey, I kind of need to see some people. So I'm out here. I'm missing people now, Steven. You're one of those people.
Exactly. Well, this show is a good opportunity to see people and be seen.
Yeah, and connect a little bit with everybody. Speaking of everybody, get in the comments, hit that like button. If you're watching this right now, I want to know who you are, where you are, what in the world you're up to. What's the weather like? Spring is springing all around us. Is it sprung where you are? Steven, where in the world are you right now?
I am coming to you from Cave Creek, Arizona, which is a suburb of Phoenix, Arizona, and it is definitely spring here. It's been spring for over a month. All the flowers are in bloom. It's gorgeous. It's 75 degrees and sunny here today. So my apologies to folks who may still be under less desirable weather.
Yeah, up in the Northeast, they're getting snow recently. So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Sorry, y'all. Here it's beautiful, and in Texas right now, it's wildflower season in Texas. So allergies are happening, but it's really beautiful because you can just drive down the highway and see gorgeous, just hills or sides of the road covered in bluebonnets and yellow wildflowers and pinks and stuff like that. And it's just a really special time. So
Yeah, gorgeous
excited.
in Dallas. I lived there for 5 years, and it's a beautiful time of year.
Yeah, it really is. Get in the comments here, hit that like button, show Steven some love. If you got questions too, we're going to be talking about RMC pricing. We're going to be talking about that business model. We're going to be talking about some myths. Steven's got a paper he's been writing and kind of collecting some thoughts on. So we're going to kind of dive into some of that. Feel free to challenge as well because I think some of this stuff might be a little controversial or stuff that people don't know, Steven. So we're going to pull back the curtain, I guess, a little bit. Is that what we're gonna do today?
Absolutely. A lot of stuff that I think, as RMCs, I think we kind of assume people know, but I think the reality is there's lots of things that folks don't know.
Yeah. Well, interesting. I'm excited to hear it. We got people checking in here. Stacy Miller Ture. Hi,
Hey,
Stephen and Ben.
Stacy.
What's up, Stacy? It's good to see you. Tom Brune.
Um,
Great to see that you have one of the smartest people in mobility on the show
he's
today.
talking about you, Ben.
Yeah, Stephen, it's really great to see you as well. No,
Great
just
to
kidding.
see
Tom was
Tom.
referring to you. Um, let's see here. Good to see you, Tom. Janet, we miss you both. Oh, Janet, sweetie, appreciate that. Michael Ray,
There's Michael, my
great.
business partner.
What's up, Michael? Good to see you. Jill checking in. Jennifer John, any relation?
My lovely wife.
Oh, isn't that nice? My wife never watches these things. What's going on with that, Olivia?
I
Mom,
made
where
her
you at?
watch.
You did nice. Well, Jennifer, don't hold any punches, Jennifer. Okay,
Yeah, she's
let
going
them
to
fly in the
challenge me.
comments. There you go. Bridget Green, greetings from Minneapolis. It's definitely springing here today. Well, if Minnie's getting it, it
Mm,
must be heaven.
absolutely.
Michelle checking in from South Texas. What's going on, Michelle? Daisy St. Clair. Hi, Stephen. Great to see you and excited to hear from you today.
Hey,
Hey,
Daisy.
Daisy. And our friend Tanya Hamilton. Hi, guys.
Hey, T. Ginger
Ginger,
Owens. Oh, okay, great.
Sienna, and myself.
Excellent. The
Who's
whole
Ginger,
crew, the
Sienna?
whole
Yeah,
crew. The
yeah.
rest of her crew there.
The rest of the crew. Wow. All right. Well, hit that like button, Ginger, Sienna. All right. I gotta ask you a little bit. Everybody knows you, Stephen, for so long, right? I mean, you've been kind of a staple in our industry. What have you been up to lately, though? Fill us in a little bit.
Sure, absolutely. So, really have been one just kind of enjoying life. My wife and I have done a tremendous amount of traveling over the last year and a half. We have kids all over the United States. It feels like Chicago, Connecticut, the Dallas area. We got to go see the kids and grandkids. So we've been doing a lot of that. went to Belize, went to Hawaii,
Wow.
just love the tropics. And then a few months back, one of my former colleagues at Prudential, Michael Ray, reached out to me and wanted to know if I wanted to join him with Global Mobility Advisor, the consulting firm he's been running for the last few years. And I said, yeah, absolutely. And so been doing that really now, gosh, since January. So it's been a whirlwind. We've been doing a lot of different work, and first and foremost, what kind of I specifically did is spent most of March and a little bit of April creating an online class for CRP exam preparation. And it's really the first of its kind. It's all online. It's self-paced. We created over 500 mock exam questions. So it's really great too, and I love software and the way stuff works today. The learning software allows you to take the course, go through the various sessions, and take as many mock examinations as you want. It takes all 500 questions and mixes and matches them and spits them out into 125 questions, which is what the CRP exam is. So
And it'll be really interesting now to see how people do with the pass rate on that. Last time I heard the pass rate on the CRP was about 70%.
that's
So
kind of
I don't know.
traditional, though, Ben. That's it's not an easy test. You really need to have a good broad base of knowledge throughout the industry. There's questions about household goods. There's questions about home sale, taxes.
Tax codes from the 70s are in there. Watch out, y'all.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's some arcane stuff that you got to know.
Yeah. Yeah. Radon. I mean, there's some stuff in there, guys. So
Yep. The
brush up on it.
BMA, the inspection, all of that.
I tell you
Uh,
what, I haven't taken your course yet. I'm sure it's phenomenal. I will say the best thing that helped me was not studying the source material because it is overwhelming, but instead studying the questions and sample questions. I mean, I hate to say it, but I mean, there's a big memorization factor to this, right?
there
It's just like
is,
school, right?
there is.
And so, I'm happy that you're doing this, and I like the self-paced nature of it. I'm actually teaching a CRP prep class or a module of it on behalf of the North Texas relocation professionals on
Excellent,
the 24th.
excellent.
Yeah, I'm not prepared, so I have to cram to be able to teach this thing. But I should be ready by this time next week.
Yeah,
If people are
the practice questions are the best way to do it.
if people are interested in taking this prep course, how would they access it, Stephen?
Sure, you can go to globalmobilityadvisor with an e.com, and there's a courses page, and you can access the course right there.
Okay.
It's also linked on the ERC page. So when you sign up for the exam, there's a link to our course.
Oh wow. Oh, that's cool. So does
Yeah, ERC's been
WERC
very
kind of
helpful.
endorse it or?
They would probably not use the word endorse, but they are absolutely helping us with a link, and just like they've linked to some of the study groups as well. So, and we promote the CRP exam too. You know me, I'm a huge supporter of the certification. I think it's if you don't have it, you should go get it.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask you before we kind of hop into the meat here. Why are you such a big proponent of the CRP designation? People ask me all the time, especially new people who are new to the industry, right? Do I need a certification? If so, is it the GMS or the CRP? What do you recommend? What are your thoughts on that, Stephen?
Sure. I have both certifications. I think the CRP is incredibly valuable when, we look at what we do in this industry. We're supposed to be the experts, right? We're like the consultant, we're like the attorney, we're like the CPA. Um, and having that certification, one, studying for it and learning all that material helps make you more into an expert. And then secondarily, it's that kind of concrete representation, certification that you are the expert. And that's what we're selling every day.
Yeah, yeah. I tell you what, I passed the exam in 2016. I sat for it in Vegas, which is like the worst place to study and cram for an exam.
It's
But
where I
I
took it as
passed
well,
it.
but 10 years
Yeah,
earlier than that. But
yeah.
yes,
Okay, there you go. Yeah, and so, but I passed it. I was thankful I never did. And I tell you what, not having to retake that exam was a big reason to show up to you get these CRP credits as
Yep.
well, right? So you don't have
Yep.
to.
Get your continuing ed and pay your dues. Don't let it lapse. I've talked to a variety of individuals who have let it lapse, and they're very, very sorry that they've done so. So.
Yeah, for sure. Well, okay, so talk to me a little bit about the work that you're doing at Global Mobility Advisor and kind of what prompted you to write up this kind of this paper, I'll call it, on
Sure.
these
Yeah, we
myths.
there's a white paper. You can find it also on the site under articles. The uh, the firm itself is geared towards helping clients and providers within the industry with any kind of consulting that they might need, policy review, cost analysis. We do a lot of work in those areas, procurement, supply chain, procurement and analysis, as well as full-on RFP support.
Okay, all right, and let's get into the myths. Like, let's just do it. Can we just preview some of these myths right now?
Yeah,
Can
so
we do it?
let's talk about real quickly kind of why we did this. And again, when we look at kind of the way the industry works, and Ben, I've been in the RMC business for over 20 years. And relocation management companies play an extremely valuable role in our industry. Their knowledge, their level of expertise, the flexibility that they provide for employers. It's impossible to match the services that you get with an RMC with an in-house program. Over the years, though, that value has been discounted, mainly due to the influence of competitive pressures and some things that have been going on kind of behind the scenes around procurement. So when you think about it, once upon a time, employers who outsourced the mobility function compensated their RMC through a fee-based structure, just as you would any professional, accountants, attorneys, consultants, etc. When you pay a fee, you understand the value, right? Well, as employers began to try and negotiate ever lower fees, rather than defend the value of the service, RMCs responded by finding other ways to monetize the relationship. And thus, the supplier revenue model was born. Fees were reduced, but so was the perceived value of RMC services. We also concocted a variety of myths about the supplier revenue model, which muddied the waters even more. And it's these myths that we want to explore today. Only by pulling aside the curtain and making sure everyone understands can we hope to restore this balance between buyers and sellers of relocation services.
Okay, all right.
So let's look at
Interesting.
the first one.
Let's get into it. Sammy, put up the first one here.
So the first myth is RMC services are free, and I love this because I've actually heard
Do
this
people really
from
believe that like people do
I've
this for
heard it
nothing?
from prospects many,
Huh.
many times. And we're pitching a prospect as an RMC with a fee-based compensation structure, because that's what I ran for the last 10 years. And they'll tell me, they'll go, well, Stephen, your competitor was just here and they said their services are free because they get compensated through supplier revenue.
Hmm.
Okay. So supplier revenue is probably the biggest myth in the industry. And the contention here is that suppliers pay for the RMC services through commissions and rebates to the RMC, saving the employer from having to pay a fee. Well, we all know there's no such thing as a free lunch. Somebody's paying for it. And honestly, it's not the supplier. When we look at the rebates and commissions that RMCs receive from suppliers, these monies do not come out of supplier profits. Okay, so that's kind of the contention, right? Well, the supplier paid for that, but that's not the way it works.
Hmm.
Instead, the rebate amounts are simply added on top of what the supplier would have normally charged the employer for the service. So when the employers pay their pass-through invoices, there's some extra money now that they can rebate back to the RMC. Voila,
Hmm.
supplier revenue.
Hmm.
Except the
Yeah,
client paid it,
yeah.
not the supplier.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree that free lunches are hard to come by as a person who looks for free lunches often. But I do also know from talking to like my real estate friends, when I talk about the relocation business, they all want to get into it because of the volume, but then when they get into it, they realize that their commissions are cut almost in half. So it does feel like it doesn't feel in that scenario. I'll just use real estate, as one because it's the biggest revenue stream, I think, or it used to be. It doesn't feel that that's necessarily incremental. In addition, it seems like it's a profit share out of or a rev share out of their commission.
I think if you make the assumption that everyone has to pay 3% for commission, then you have a point. But we'll talk later in myth number 3 how that's really not the case.
Oh, you got a teaser. We got a teaser.
And how
Get
the
in the
clients
comments
are
here. Get
really
in the
playing
comments
it.
here, and I want to see what your thoughts are about these myths. Super interesting stuff. Scott says suppliers will build this into their fees. Something costs $1,000 and the referral fee is $200, which means the client bill is $1,200.
It's exactly how it works, Ben. And Scott's totally, you're right. So it's part of the contract process. As an RMC, when I go to one of my suppliers, I actually specify how much they're going to give me back. So in the contract, let's just assume I'm trying to get appraisal services from an appraisal management company. I'll go and I'll tell the appraisal management company if I'm doing a new contract with them and say, hey, I want $50 back on every appraisal. And they go, okay, well, I normally charge $725, but I'll charge you $775. And then when the client pays that amount, I'll send you a check for $50 back. And of course, with appraisals, you got to get two. So it's actually two $50 checks. And this is endemic throughout the industry. It's every single service from TL to appraisals to household goods to you name it. There is some little piece that the supplier has been asked by the RMC to add on top so that they can give it back to them when they get it.
All right. Let's do myth number 2.
Okay, so kind of to add insult to injury, RMCs are supposed to ensure the lowest tax gross up cost, but the supplier revenue model prevents that. So one of the big advantages that RMCs bring their clients is calculating the appropriate tax assistance, that amount of gross up on taxable income to the employee. RMCs maintain software, they keep it up to date to handle the various methods of calculation. There's a lot of different methods, and they got to keep up with federal, state, local. It's an incredibly valuable service. Clients would be hard pressed to try and duplicate that for themselves. And the accuracy around that, keeping it maintained, ensures compliance and prevents over and underpayments. Unfortunately, this supplier revenue process artificially inflates taxable income, right? If we go back to the example, well, let's take. I'm going to try and keep math to a minimum here, Ben. But unfortunately, there's going to be a little bit. Yeah, exactly. For me too, right? So let's assume you have an $11,000 household goods invoice. Well, $1,000 of that is the rebate back to the RMC. That's their fee. That's their fee for helping coordinate the service and whatever. Well, but because that fee is embedded in the invoice amount, the gross up is calculated on $11,000, not the $10,000 plus $1,000 fee. Now, it's important to understand here that service fees, if it's really charged as a service fee, are not taxable. So if instead of burying the compensation in the pass-through amount, if the RMC charged two line items, $10,000 for household goods and $1,000 for a service fee, well, then the taxable income for the employer would be reduced by that $1,000.
Do you think
gross up rates?
That's a really great point, and I don't hear people talk about that or propose that point. But I'm gonna kind of ask you and maybe challenge to some degree. Do you think that corporations would accept a billing structure like that? I mean, there's a reason that it is kind of formulated the way it is today, constructed the way it is today. I mean, what are your thoughts about that? Will they accept that?
They absolutely will because I've done it. Over the last 6, 7, 8 years within the organization I was previously with, we presented invoices exactly like that. Here's the amount of the actual household good charge. Here's the amount of our commission back. And this is a fee. We actually label it as a fee so that they wouldn't have to pay gross up on it. If you think about $1,000 commission that is buried in the invoice rather than segregate it out as a fee. With gross up rates over 50%, that just cost the client an extra $500.
It's a really interesting point. Get in the comments here. I want to hear your thoughts about this. Gary Connerly weighs in. He says, this week a new supplier, not naming names, asked me how much I wanted him to add to his quote as revenue back to us, the RMC. But Gary, I got to ask, like, what's wrong with that? I mean, aren't RMCs, I mean, y'all provide a service, you're adding value. Shouldn't you be compensated for that value?
Well, absolutely, we should. And there's nothing about what I'm suggesting that says RMCs should not be fairly compensated. All we're really trying to point out here is that the way they're being compensated is counterproductive. It's incredibly inefficient, and we can talk about that a little bit as well. But in this particular regard, it actually costs the client more money. And this extra gross up that's paid, it doesn't even go to the RMC, it goes to the government. And we all love to pay more taxes.
Well, nobody wants to do that, right? Isn't the real issue here, though, too, the taxability of these benefits? I mean, shouldn't we really focus as an industry on sunsetting the taxability of relocation benefits? I mean, isn't that
I would absolutely love to see that, Ben. I think, if I read the tea leaves correctly, I don't think they're going to sunset that. The extra revenue that's generated from, having all that stuff be taxable is part of the money that, the administration needs to fund their other priorities. So I think it's unlikely that that particular part of the Tax and Jobs Cut Act will get sunsetted. Maybe I'll be wrong. If I'm wrong, that'll be great. But even if you go back to it not being taxable, it's still just going to impact household goods and final move expenses. So there's still plenty of other things that wind up with a rebate on top of it that are going to get taxed.
Yep. Scott Enoch weighing in here says, Gary, happens all the time. Best relationships are direct relationships. Gary says, I am compensated, but I charge the client a move management fee.
Right. So when we talked about kind of in the good old days when everything was based on a fee, it was real clear what people were being paid, and we didn't have all this artificial stuff going on in the background. All right. So you want to talk about real estate commissions?
I mean, I'm down. Yeah.
So
go ahead. Is that
let's go to
still myth 2 here, or are we on myth 3?
No, let's go to number 3.
Number 3.
So number 3 is that RMCs cannot share the real estate referral fee unless the client has a broker's license. So RMCs hear this all the time, particularly from more sophisticated employers. The employer knows that the RMC is collecting a referral on the real estate sale and on the purchase, and they want to get in on the action, right? The RMC says, oh, alas, if only we could, but you'd have to have a real estate broker's license to share referrals. Some employers have even gone as far as to get someone in HR to get a broker's license so they can share the referrals. I've worked with several clients in the past where we did share referrals and someone in HR had a broker's license in order to allow that to happen. All right, so technically this is correct. Real estate commissions, including the referral fee, which is just part of that commission split, can only be shared amongst licensed real estate brokers. But asking for a share of the real estate referral is the wrong question. The employer or their employee, if they're not getting any benefits, is the seller or the buyer in the transaction. And what employers should be asking for is a commission reduction. All commissions are negotiable. They don't have to pay 3%. Particularly when we look at the most recent Sitzer-Burnett settlement and all of the changes that the National Association of Realtors have made to the MLS rules as a result. All of that creates a perfect environment now for the client to say, hey, Mr. RMC, I realize you want me to pay 3% because now you can take 40% of that as a referral, but I don't think that's the right amount. I think I should be paying 2%. I think I should be paying 2.5%. Whatever the right amount is, it's time to make sure that employers understand that they can negotiate the commission. All right, so let's talk about amounts a little bit. Let's do a little bit more math. Apologies. So if we look at kind of the standard, and it runs the gamut, but RMCs collect about 40% of the commission as a referral. So really the broker's already working at a reduced rate, right? If you think there's 60% left for the broker on a 3% commission, that means they're already working at 1.8%. So the broker's not the issue here. They're already working as cheap as they possibly come. But the real question becomes, how much should the RMC earn in this transaction? On a $500,000 home with a 3% commission and a 40% referral, the RMC collects $6,000. Then if the employee also purchases a home, they collect another $6,000. Okay, so now they've made $12,000 on this transferee. Is that the right amount? Is that the right amount to compensate for the service? I don't know. If it's $1 million home, if it's $1 million home sold and $1 million home purchase, they just collected $24,000. The question for the employer should be, what's the right amount for me to pay for the service? Because in that scenario, the employer paid the $24,000.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could argue that employee was going to be paying 3% regardless. I mean, I paid.
Except they don't. I just sold the house. I paid 2%, and I paid 2% on the buy side.
Yeah.
I paid 4%.
Yeah. I just bought a house as well, and I was talking to my realtor about this. Now, granted, I bought it, so I didn't care quite as much, and this was before I was paying for it. So take that with a grain of salt, right? It's a big grain of salt. But when I talk to realtors, or realtors, I should say realtors.
Realtors, yes, absolutely.
Realtors out there, they don't want to work at a lower rate, which is understandable. And the folks who do in their shop are usually, some of the more junior agents. There's some of the folks that don't have maybe a big book of business. They don't have a full inventory that they're already working with. And I think the fear I would have is that if I'm not getting your best agent, then it might impact the equity I get in the home. I mean,
absolutely. I mean, I think that from a consumer perspective, you have to really kind of look at what you're doing and understand what's happening when you negotiate your commission. There's lots of agents who are willing to negotiate commissions, and I think there's going to be more and more consumers that negotiate commissions. But that being said, we have to go back to the original contention, which is in the relo space, brokers are already working for 1.8%. And I would in no way, shape, or form ask them to work for less than that. As a matter of fact, I think 1.8% is ridiculous considering the amount of work, extra work that we ask the relo agent to do. It's really about the referral fee. What's the right amount here to get for a referral? And is it something that should go to the RMC, or should it be part of the savings that the client gets? And again, I don't know what the right amount is. I really don't. But I think the employer needs to understand that referral fees are not free to them. It's not something they would have paid anyway. And then if they want to negotiate, they should negotiate with their RMC about it.
Get in the comments. I want to hear what your thoughts are here. These are definitely some hot takes here. Interesting stuff. We got London checking in. What's up, London? How's it going, Richard? Good to see you, buddy. Hit that like button. Get in the comments here. Super curious what you all think out there. Steven, do you care? I mean, some people might be upset that you're talking about this stuff. I mean, have you heard that, or you got?
I really haven't. I mean, I think you said something, at the beginning of the show, which is, doesn't everyone know this stuff? And I think that a lot of people do know some of this, pieces of this. I think it's important that we have a transparent relationship. As an RMC, I don't want to, kind of hide things from clients. I want them to understand how much they're paying me for the service. And I want to do it in such a way that, it's all transparent, right? The whole transparency thing. We'll talk about that in a little bit too.
Yeah.
I think there's one other issue here around commissions and referrals, which are interesting, right? Which is, as a consumer, and whether you're a business consumer or a retail consumer, if you compensate your provider through a commission, you're probably not getting the best value, because just because something costs twice as much doesn't mean you should compensate twice as much. And that's what happens anytime you agree to paying somebody a commission for a service. And it's just something that I think employers need to look at when they think about how they compensate their RMCs.
I mean, I personally like working on commissions. I mean, we do it all the time, you know.
As a
I do it as a
provider, I love it.
salesperson. I do it,
Yeah,
as a services
absolutely.
provider. I mean, commissions are not, unheard of. I mean, I like it. I mean, you're saying everyone should just go to a flat fee for a service?
I think that if you are the buyer, commissions are probably not in your best interest unless you're really trying to motivate somebody to get you better value, right? If I pay a 10% commission for a piece of art at auction, I'm doing it because I think that will motivate the auctioneer to get me the best price. And that
Hmm.
whatever I might kind of overpay for the actual service is compensated for the fact that I'm going to get more money on the back end. But that makes no sense if we're looking at a household goods invoice, right?
So you bring up an interesting point, and I actually had this conversation because we do some M&A work in this space, right? And as you know, there's a lot of consolidation going on in this space, right? And so, we do work with companies who are buying and selling other companies, and it's been really fascinating work over the last few years to like learn about this space, right? And so we get a commission on that, right? And that's kind of a standard structure. Um, but when we work with the buyers who are going out and looking for companies to purchase and we get a percentage of that, someone could argue that our incentives are not aligned because I would make more the more they spend. One company we worked with actually proposed, hey, if we have a target price of, 5 times EBITDA, let's just say, and let's just say that's $1 million for round numbers, and you can help us get it for 900,000. Maybe you make a large percentage of the delta, for instance, and that kind of goes to your point earlier around kind of aligning the commission more so with the value that you actually create in the transaction.
Yeah, and Ben, that's a great segue into myth number 4.
Uh oh,
So
teeing it up here. Let's see here. We got people commenting here. We're gonna get to myth 4 real quick. Chris Klein saying right on, Ben. He says, why is it percentage versus flat fee to sell it by real estate? I'm not arguing that it should be a flat fee. I'm not all the way converted yet, Stephen, but I do see your point.
where is Chris located?
Chris is in Florida, I think.
Oh, okay. Because in a lot of places in Europe, they charge a flat fee.
Oh, interesting. Michael Ray says markets work best when participants have equal access to relevant information. Transparency leads to clear
Exactly.
expectations and better value for customers.
Yep. And that's really where at the beginning of the show, I'm like, we need to reinstate this balance between these two players so that everyone understands what's going on, and RMCs can be fairly compensated and employers can get the best value for their money.
Yeah, Scott brings up a great point. AIG, I was able to get a real estate brokerage license.
Exactly.
We collected all the referral revenue and charged a lesser rate than the RMCs. Turned out to be over $1 million of revenue for the company. The win was relocation was now a free service to the company. We no longer charged out our services to the business units. Not right for every company, but right for some. Scott, I'll take it a step further. I have heard of programs who have a brokerage function that they allow all their employees to use as an affinity service, and the relocation department where it sits is now a profit center for that company and not a cost center. So interesting stuff. Definitely different. Let's go to number 4, myth 4.
So number 4, RMCs ensure the lowest total mobility spend. And of course, this one seems counterintuitive, right? Because I mean, when you hire an RMC, I mean, as an RMC, we tell all of our prospects and clients, hey, we're going to get you the lowest pricing on household goods. We're going to get you the lowest pricing on TL. We're going to get you the lowest pricing on, whatever we procure for you. We have better purchasing power. We have all the relationships. So how is this a myth, right? Well, we need to understand that RMCs are the relocation procurement office for their clients, right? If an employer needs to buy light bulbs or paper or whatever, they go to their purchasing group, their procurement group, and they go, hey, I need 12 boxes of copier paper, and they take care of negotiating it and all of that, right? It's all done internally. With Relo, they've actually outsourced that portion, right? Which makes sense because it's a huge deal and they need someone to handle it for them. So RMCs are the procurement officer and they identify suppliers, they make contracts, they set pricing, and all of that is done by the RMC as the procurement officer. Well, if you were ever part of procurement or you ever talked to anyone in procurement or you've ever taken an ethics course, the the first principle of procurement is that the procurement officer must avoid all conflicts of interest. You can't buy from your brother. You can't have an ownership stake in the supplier that you're working with. And you certainly can't profit from or accept kickbacks for directing purchases, right? If the average procurement officer took the kind of rebates that RMCs did, that they'd get fired.
I want to interject here and ask a question. When you're saying that's an ethics thing, is that true for? I know it's true for the procurement officer personally, but are you saying that also extends to the company as well?
Well, it certainly extends the entire purchasing department and yeah, the company itself, right? If I don't know, CVS Pharmacy needs light bulbs and they're buying them from the brother of the chief executive officer, that's a conflict of interest and should be frowned upon. And if it's allowed, it should be absolutely disclosed. I've worked for real estate companies in many cases. The broker for a company that we purchase also owns the building. Well, normally we wouldn't allow that, but because we're making an acquisition, we disclose it all. It's all above board. We make sure that the rent that's paid is market rent and it's not, overly. So you gotta. There's a lot of shenanigans you got to go through to make sure that if you do have a conflict of interest, it's not hurting the company.
So where I was going with this is, wouldn't that also pertain to kickbacks or revenue sharing for business?
Yeah, that's all
For
frowned
instance,
upon.
with relocation, commission
I,
sharing, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what we're seeing here, right? Because they've outsourced the procurement to an RMC, they're not thinking about kind of what this really means from a conflict of interest perspective. So what happens now is the RMC receives a percentage of the spend, right? The entire supplier revenue process is basically we call it a rebate, we call it a commission. It's basically a kickback, right? Hey, here's some more money back. So how does that impact them, right? When they're managing the day-to-day relationships, are they going to push back on price increases? Every price increase that a supplier brings to an RMC, it's really a revenue increase for the RMC. If I'm making 10% on every household goods invoice, if the household goods carrier comes in and says, hey, I got to increase the tariff, I got to raise the rates, well, that's a revenue increase for the RMC because they're making a percentage of that. How much pushback are they going to do that in that kind of scenario? They also manage service usage. So now because I make money on every dollar that's spent, there's really no incentive for the RMC to try and control the usage of services. Every service in the policy, they want to make sure that the transfer uses, because again, the more that's spent, the more RMC revenue there is. Now, Ben, I don't want to try and make a case that says RMCs are ripping everybody off, because that's not what's happening. As an RMC, and I've worked for 4 different RMCs in my career, we face this as with the supplier revenue model, if you have the supplier revenue model, you face this dilemma virtually on a daily basis. Every decision you make either drives more revenue because there's more services or there's more money being spent, or it saves money for the client because the pricing went down or there's less services. And you've got to balance that on a day-to-day basis and really work to make the right decisions for your client. And I think most RMCs, that's where their head's at. That's what they try and do every single day. But very honestly, living in that environment creates huge disincentives every day for RMCs to do the right thing. And as an employer, as a client, as a paying customer, that's not really where I want my RMC's head to be at. I want them driving every day to make sure that only the services my employees need are what they use, and I want to make sure that my RMC is working every single day to reduce my spend and save me money.
Well, I mean, it does feel like there's been a huge focus from the corporate side on reducing spend for, gosh, as long as I can remember. I've been in this business probably 15 years. So it doesn't seem like that is an underrepresented point of view. I mean, how do we get more focus around the service and I mean, I guess we can talk in terms of value. But I mean, there's an employee here that needs to be supported, right? And I do kind of worry about when we start to take the money out of this business, and it's been under a lot of pressure. I mean, look, I mean, we've seen 2 RMCs go out of business in the last 2 years, with
Yep.
MSI and Paragon, right? It just became insolvent. So I mean, there's not like there's an abundance of profit floating around right now. I mean, maybe 15 years ago or something, it was richer, right? But I do worry a little bit about like when at some point we cut to the bone, and all of a sudden now employees have no managed relocation experience, and like what happens?
Yeah, and I'm certainly not advocating for that. As I stated right at the beginning, RMCs are incredibly valuable and they need to be compensated fairly, but they need to be compensated in a way that's transparent and frankly doesn't waste money for the client. I think the comment you made is very real. Employers are faced every single day with, hey, I have this much spend, and how do I reduce it? And unfortunately, most of the solutions that they're given are to cut benefits, reduce benefits. Oh, you don't want to spend as much, you don't have as much of a budget, reduce benefits. Oh, don't pay for this, don't pay for that. That is not what we're talking about here. I think the money that can be saved by moving, one, the gross up thing is just wasted, right? Because it goes to the government. So if I could get those dollars back to a client, well, then that's extra money they could use for employee benefits.
We are all in agreement there that we need to limit the
Limit the amount of money
that
that goes to the government.
this.
Yeah. So anyway, I think that there's money that's available here, savings that's available here that will not ultimately hurt the RMC and will not ultimately hurt the client.
Yeah, Scott, Enoch, we got some comments coming in here. Get in the comments. I love when everyone starts to contribute and the conversation gets really rich when we crowdsource these ideas. Scott says, here's an example, house of goods. Using an RMC, there may not be an incentive to lower the amount of unneeded crating. Crating is expensive and raises the amount of the invoice. RMC makes money off the total invoice. I think this is what Steve is referring to on ethics.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, crating is a little excessive as a person that just had like 5 TVs created when I moved.
Yeah, again, they don't want the loss and damage claim, right?
Well, the problem is these dang TVs are less than the crates. I mean,
Yeah.
the craftsmanship that goes. I mean, guys are like cutting custom crates to fit to suit in my driveway. I mean, it was really a work of art.
Did this just happen, Ben?
Yeah, this happened last whatever.
Okay,
it was,
because
September.
a lot of movers now, even for the largest TVs, have special boxing that they use so that they don't have to crate the TVs. I'll be honest, when I moved and I paid for it personally, when my last move back here to Phoenix, I left all the TVs because for what it costs to ship them and pack them and ship them, I could buy new ones in Phoenix.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and technically they are attached to the wall. So when you
Yeah. leave them.
I mean, it's kind of a fixture in a
Yeah,
way,
leave them.
but
I mean, again, since I was paying for it personally, it was easy for me to say leave them, but that was not the case
but,
for people who are getting their move paid for.
Ben Heller says, I'm Team Stephen John. It's great to see you and Ben all smart points. The issue I've seen
Hey,
is
Ben.
that the corporate client is incentivized to structure the cost as they are in most is incentivized to structure the cost as they are in most environments today. I don't quite understand. As often they don't have their own budget to pay for these services, and the business units and management aren't educated enough to know these challenges, but they don't want to pay for RMC service fees if at all possible. Bottom line, it's really hard to sell things to solve a problem. Scott's saying the funny thing is when the TV is delivered to the store that sells it, it comes in a box. When the movers move it, they want to be crated, and herein lies the problem. Yeah, you would think there's a lot of reusable crate options there, but I don't know if you can charge as much when you reuse it. So yeah, super interesting. Let's get into the fifth one.
Yeah, real quick, last myth, transparency. So for many years, transparency has been a buzzword within the relocation industry, but it's mainly lip service. What we see instead with the supplier revenue model are the rebates, commissions, markups, whatever you want to call them, are not reported to the client. And that means that employers rarely know the true cost of RMC services. What's really become another trend lately over the last decade, we've seen an increasing trend for RMCs to outsource tasks that they used to perform in-house with RMC employees. Home sale processing, broker network management, appraisal management and review, house of goods audits, a variety of other tasks. So what happens now is the RMC had a team of people that was doing broker network management, and now they outsource it to somebody. Well, they eliminate those people, but the fee that they pay to outsource the task now shows up on the closing statement, and the client pays for it. So we're seeing a variety of things be outsourced that used to be paid for by the RMC as part of their overhead cost, now winding up as a line item on the closing statement, and now the client pays it, and there's no transparency around any of that. And so that one's a little bit that's really become over the last few years. To add insult to injury on many outsource arrangements, the RMC then says, "Oh yeah, and I need a $50 rebate on each one of those," and so they still get a rebate back.
Really interesting. I mean, I can see. I mean, everybody wants transparency, but I mean, that's the old saying about how the sausage is made, right? You don't really want to see it. When you start seeing it and you start nitpicking it, and then you nitpick it all the way to the point where a service can't even be delivered, because I mean, the whole system is built around these different referral income streams.
Well, it is now. It
Pull,
didn't
when you
used
start
to
to pull
be.
the Jenga blocks out, right?
It
Like,
doesn't have to be. Again, I ran a very successful relocation company for the last 10 years, and we got fees, and it's very easy to do. It as a CEO of that company, I felt very good about what we were doing, and the fact that we could be transparent and we could show our clients exactly how much money we made on their services. And it also then it goes back to this whole value thing, right? If everything's free, then there's no value placed on it. And I think that's the corner that RMCs have painted themselves into in today's environment. Their clients are like, well, yeah, give me this report. No, I don't. No, I guess I didn't think that through. Give me the report this way. Oh no, that's still not really what I want. No, give me this. There's no repercussion for service demands. There's no value behind any request for any kind of service from an RMC because hey, it's all free. So
yeah,
I think if we can get back to more of a fee-based structure, then clients will absolutely understand, oh yeah, you're going to move my guy and that costs X amount of money, or we're going to have, 3 parts of the policy and I'm going to charge a fee for each part of that. There's a variety of ways to do it. Now I understand what the value is.
getting a little complaint here that I'm not as audible. So if you guys can hear me, let me know out there. Steven's
Shout it out, Ben. Shout it out.
apparently, yeah, apparently I'm being over talked here. I can't have you heard it. Let's see. Scott says, I'll spill this because the RMC's not around. I was told to invoice the RMC a higher amount. This way they can be, quote, transparent and show their client the amount they were billed. Then the RMC would pay me the amount on the bill, and I would have to pay them back the difference between my actual fee and the amount they requested me bill. I've also done that as well, Scott. I've had that happen as a service provider. I've also been short paid 10% or whatever the number is. You know, I've seen that happen as well. So, yeah. Tom saying in the 1980s, mobility companies were charging service fees more aligned with professional services organizations. Think the Big Four, which was the Big Eight at that time. It's like college football. HSA fee was down 2% of home value, capped at some threshold. Things change. Example, HSA volume.
Yeah, and I like that option. You know, I'll let you collect a referral, but it's got to get capped at some point.
You know, see, I kind of go the other way with this, right? I'm kind of I'm a fan of pricing, and I think we need to charge more, frankly, for what we do, generally speaking. I think we need to find ways to add more value too. I think there's almost a race to the bottom that starts to happen when people get their fees cut, then they cut service, then they get their fees cut again, then they cut service, and all of a sudden you get this race to the bottom cycle. I'd like to see ways to actually increase the charges. And when I look at people that figured this out and know how to add more value and sell solutions and things like that, Tom, I think about the Big Four companies, you know, and you look at the way that they've kind of started to encroach into this space and take up more kind of share and offer more services, from consulting to immigration to tax to all kind of nibble away at all the things. And I just think that we could learn a lesson from those big time consulting firms about the way that they price work. They've had more success, I think, than we have.
Yeah, and it's not a commodity, right? We need to be able to demonstrate our value and defend that value and have no problem charging for that value.
Yeah. Thanks, Richard. I appreciate it. I hope it's better now. Scott says, I think what Steve is proposing is a fee for service and no referral revenue. Is that what you're proposing, Steve?
I do believe that's the right thing. I think the supplier revenue model needs to die. It's lived past its useful life, and it's gotten to the point where it's not efficient. I mean, when you think about, as an RMC, if I want to make $5,000 to service a transferee for one relo, I got to collect $50 here, $100 here, $200 on that transaction, $1,000 over here. The average relocation file for an RMC has anywhere from 5 to 10 referral, commission, rebate transactions, whatever you want to call them. And that is incredibly inefficient from a business, relationship perspective. It's not just about me, and I got to pay all those people too, and then collect money back from them. It's silly.
Well, I hear you, but I would also say it's kind of like, be careful what you wish for, right? Because, so I'm in the recruiting space, right? And so we're constantly going up against the value proposition of having internal recruiters, right? So we're constantly being compared to internal recruiters. And as soon as a company starts to spend too much money on their external recruiters, they hire more internal recruiters, right?
Yep.
And then when business volume drops, they fire those internal recruiters, which is why, it's really hard being an internal recruiter. And then they have nobody on staff to do it anymore. And then they go back and they hire external recruiters. And then, of course, when they spend too much money, they staff up internally, so on and so forth, because the fee structures are super transparent. And they can say, well, gosh, if I spend $100,000 in recruiting fees this year, I could go get a, TA professional for $60K and save $40,000. Right, and seemingly that makes sense on paper. Is the threat here that if RMCs were more transparent with their fee structures, that more programs would be brought in house?
I guess I don't see that. and one, we went to a totally transparent fee structure in the last RMC I worked with. We didn't lose any clients over it, and we had tremendous success in winning new clients. And so I'm not really afraid of it. And I think goes back to, right, if your client says, oh, I can hire a TA internally, for 60% of what you're charging me, I'd be like, well, go ahead. You won't get X, you won't get Y, you won't get Z, you won't get my expertise. It's like the person who complains about, how much the plumber charges, right? Well, the plumber charges not because he was there for an hour. The plumber charges because he has 20 years of experience and knows how to fix your sink without breaking it first, which is
Yeah,
what I always
totally.
do when I try and do plumbing. So there you
Yeah, totally. No, it's super valid, and going back to the talent acquisition thing too. I mean, you might be able to do 80% of the roles, but there's going to be that 20% that just you cannot do internally. So you're going to do them both things. You're going to have an external and an internal. So then you end up spending more.
I mean, I
Really
think if
interesting.
RMCs are afraid of transparency, then it's either because they think they're charging too much or they don't think they're providing the value that would be warranted for the fee they feel they need to charge.
Yeah, yeah, or I'll submit a third option. They're afraid of their clients' singular focus around cost cutting. I mean, I see inane stuff done. These corporations are so focused on cutting costs, they'll cut FTEs, right? They'll cut full-time employees. They'll just look at how many people do I have on payroll? I'll cut it. And then I'll turn around and pay a staffing company or a consultant, 150% of what I was paying an internal employee. And I just don't understand. There's just this obsession around, a certain number, and I think they lose sometimes the forest for the trees in some of these things. So I think there is a valid concern there that, people just come in with a red pen and just start slashing stuff and without really thinking of the implications. So
Yeah.
you bring up valid, some really interesting points here too, Stephen. Hey, let's have a little fun, Stephen. You got a minute? Let's play a game.
I got a
All
minute.
right. We're gonna play overrated, underrated. It's what you've all been waiting for out there. Get in the comments here. We're gonna have some fun with Stephen playing overrated, underrated. Stephen, do you know how to play the game?
I don't think I know exactly, but I'll get close.
It's somewhat intuitive with a twist. Okay, I'm gonna give you a topic. You are going to tell me if that thing is overrated or underrated.
Okay.
I will tell you if you're correct. All right. Let's
Okay.
go. I'm the decider here. Okay, let's go. All right. RMCs, overrated or underrated?
Underrated. We've talked about
What
it.
a twist. The whole time he's beating them up, and then at the end they're underrated.
They
ahead, Stephen,
add
why
a
is that?
tremendous amount of value.
Yeah, no, I agree actually. So being a household goods provider, we'd have move coordinators to coordinate the move. And for a long part of my career, we openly wondered, well, if I have a move coordinator, why do they need a relocation consultant? Like, what the heck? Like, isn't it just consultant on consultant? I mean, telephone game, isn't it just too much? And then when you really peel back the onion, it's like there's a lot of services that have to all come together and work in unison with tax implications and legal ramifications. And you do need somebody with a whole lot of experience pulling that all together. So.
Absolutely. If I was an employer, there's no way I'd try and do this thing without working through an RMC.
Well, or you
Regardless
just
of the size.
stroke a check
Regardless
for
of
lump sum.
size.
You could stroke a lump sum check, but I mean,
you could do
that's
that,
not sustainable. You can't build
yes.
you can't build a business around it.
Lump sums are like buying your brother a gift card for his birthday. It says
How
I
did
care
you know
about
I
you,
got my
but
brother?
it says you care about him enough, but not enough to get him what he really wants.
Yeah, it's like I feel bad. It's your birthday and I didn't get you anything. Richard Majewski says, Ben, this game is so good you should make a board game out of it for Christmas.
Exactly.
Richard, that is not a bad idea. We could send some Christmas presents. We could have like a box set, like people play like Cards Against Humanity or something like that. We could play overrated, underrated. Not that I played that game. It's a filthy game. Just kidding. No, it's a great game. Caitlin says relocation counselors for the win. Yeah,
there you
for
go.
Sure. Hit that like button. Get in the comments. Let us know what you think. All right, 1 point so far for Stephen. We're keeping track. I know you're an accountant, Stephen, so this is a very accountable process. All right, next one up. Overrated, underrated, horns.
Horns are underrated. Absolutely. I love bands with horns. And you think about like 65 years of rock and roll, right? And it's all about guitars. I'm sorry. Stop with the guitars. I need some horns.
It's a bit overdone.
Saxophone, trumpets.
So in the last 2 months, I went to Nashville and I went to New Orleans. And I'll tell you
Oh
why
my
New
gosh.
Orleans is massively better than Nashville. Well, the food, honestly, number one. But number two is the horns, because everyone is singing and they're doing covers of top 40 in Nashville, and it's really about singers. But man, the musicianship on Frenchman Street in New Orleans, the horn playing, all the instruments. I mean, yeah,
It's amazing.
horns massively. And you know what? Horns mimic the human voice. And I think that's why they're such good instruments.
Yeah, absolutely. So listen to a group called Lake Street Dive, some of their older stuff. They have a guy who plays the horn, Rachel Price sings, and she has this amazing voice, and then the horn will kind of echo it. And it's
Yeah,
just an amazing combination.
absolutely love it. All right, next one up, 2 points for Steven. Overrated, underrated, meme stocks. I like the stonk.
Yeah, meme stocks are definitely overrated. Do not invest. Just get a nice S&P
Come
500
on,
fund.
Steven, you're not holding any GameStop right now?
Hell no. Hell no.
I
If
wish I
you
got
look
out
at
there.
if you look at a 50-year chart on the S&P 500, regardless of the few down points you're going to see, it's just up and up and up and up and up. It's down right now. A year from now, it'll be up.
All right, my earbuds are going out on me here a little bit. All right, you know what? I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you, Steven. Meme stocks. Meme stocks. I mean, you get a little come up, catch a little Bitcoin, get in there.
I'm a
You
conservative
know?
investor, and
Um,
I feel real good
let's see
about what
here.
I've done.
All right, last one up. This is the last one. 3 S&P 500 funds.
Well, that's underrated. That's where you need to be instead of the meme stocks.
That's where it needs to be, huh? That's where the cash needs to go. The S&P 500. Let's see here. I'm losing Steven here during overrated, underrated. Let's see here. I'm gonna go to the speakers. There we go. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Beautiful. All right, fantastic. All right, sounds good. Yeah, nothing outperforms the S&P, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. What do we got? We got one more. Or is this it? All right. So he's 4 for 4 right now. I gave him a pass on the meme stocks, but he's 4 for 4. He's on a heater. He's going down the stretch here. Okay. Let's see if we can land the plane. Pun intended. Guitar, overrated, underrated.
Oh, well, that's definitely overrated. We talked about that with the horns, right? Much rather, just too much guitar. It's all about guitar. It's overrated.
Is Tom Brune out there still watching? He's a musician. I think he's a
He
drummer.
is.
He's probably
He's a drummer,
supporting
yeah.
your anti guitar stance here. Yeah, big guitars pissed right now, Steven. But I don't hate it. I think guitar is very versatile. But you know what? I like piano. Give me some
Great
piano.
sound. Oh yeah,
A
definitely,
little piano.
definitely.
All right, I'm gonna give him 5 points. You pitched a perfect game here, Steven.
Thank you,
Great
sir.
job. Way to go. Hey, I know we're a touch over here. Thank you, everybody who watched out there. Hit that like button. Get in there with comments. There's a lot of thought-provoking stuff going on out here. Oh, you know what? We got a bonus. We got a bonus one. We got a write-in here. Richard Majewski. Easter eggs, underrated or overrated?
Underrated. I love hunting for Easter eggs as a kid. So, and it's neat to watch the kids hunt for them now.
I love finding them, hate bending over.
There you go.
But I'm going to give it to you, underrated. You know what? It's great, right? Being a parent, these are the joys, right? You don't have
Exactly.
years where people chase Easter eggs around. All right,
I
you
can
know
watch.
what?
I
You
can
went
watch the
6 for
grandkids
6.
chase them.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Steven. I really, really appreciate you being on today.
Hey, Ben, thank you very much for the time. I would just tell folks, if you go to the website, globalmobilityadvisor.com, the white paper's out there, the recommendations are out there. We'd love to help clients or RMCs who want to change things up.
Nice. Thanks so much, Steven. Thanks, everybody who watched. We will see you next week. We're going to be at the NCRP. We got a Monday show with Jose Abatley from Reversal Global. We're going to be at NCRP broadcasting live at the Mobility for Good event. And we may do something else. I don't even know. You got anything else going on, Sammy? No, that's it. 2 shows next week. All right, take care, everybody. Be well.